In today's Mix It Up Monday, I'm going to use two Daniel Smith paints. I'm going to use Neutral Tint and Viridian. Neutral Tint, you can see I've hardly used this paint at all. I'm not really sure how to use it. I've used it by itself and did kind of like a black and white loose floral with it, and I really love the results of that. So now I'm going to experiment with the two colors, and I'm going to do, for the next month, I'm going to do all neutral tint with a different color so we can see different applications of it. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to do Viridian and neutral tint. I'm going to put them aside for now. And in my little dish, I have the neutral tint here. You can see it looks like it's black. And this is the Viridian. And I'm just going to add enough water to loosen it up and get it to kind of like a milk, whole milk consistency here. So I'm just going to add plain water to this, kind of like, well, maybe one more, like that, so that it is pretty loose in there, but it's still very opaque. Okay, instead of wasting it, I'm just going to put a little bit while my brush is dirty over here, because then we're going to do our percentages. So yeah, like that. So when you put your brush through it, you can see the bottom of the tray, but it fills in right away. So that'll give us a good thick consistency. And then we'll do the same thing with the Viridian, adding water. You can see a little better with this one because it's not so dark. A little bit more water. There we go. Like that. Okay. And then, oops, got a little bit in my tray. We don't want to get false results there. Try to keep it over on that side because I can see I made it a little bit messy. I'm just going to put a little bit there. So I'm going to start with just showing you Viridian. Pretty greenish, blue-green color. And then here is the neutral tint, which you can see is like black. Okay, so I'm going to put some little dots next to my percentages. So first we're going to start with 100% Viridian, or neutral tint, then 75, then 50-50, and then 25, and then that's going to be the Viridian. So let's go back to Viridian, and we'll put our little, whoops, let's get a little thicker, a little bit thicker there. There we go. And all our little percentages, this will be 100% down here. Okay, so let's get going with it. Let's see, here's my neutral tint, and I'm going to start off by just spreading a little bit here, see what it looks like. Very dark, could use it for black. And I'm just rinsed out my brush, so now just with clean water, I'm coming back and I'm just dragging it out. So it kind of turns from almost black to a dusty violet color. That's pretty cool. Okay, so now I have all of this here, and I'm going to add, trying to get it the same consistency here. I'm going to add a couple brushfuls of my Viridian to try to make it 75% neutral tint and 25% of the Viridian. It's just a guess, just a little guess here. I think I might need a little bit more Viridian. I do believe I watered it down a little bit more than the neutral tint, so might just here. Okay, so this is going to be 75% neutral tint, 25% Viridian. So we can see it made a greener gray, very beautiful. Rinse out my brush, and then just with plain water, we'll bring it all the way out, and we can see how light we can get it. That's a very pretty bluish, well, it's got the green in it too, right? So that's really pretty, that color, how it turned out. And I can see my paper's warped a little bit here, so I'm just going to try to disregard that little warp there and see if I can't soak some of that up so we can get a truer reading there. It's probably going to make a nice bloom. Okay, So there we go, 75 to 25% Viridian. Now we're going to try to do half and half. So I'm going to add more Viridian to my little puddle and try to get it to be about half and half. We had quite a bit of paint in that well, so I'm going to mix up a little bit more of my Viridian here, so we can finish our chart. And also put some water, a little bit less water this time because I think I added too much. Just a tad more. Get it that milk consistency. And I think we're about 50-50. Kind of work it in there. And here we go. So there it is, just 50-50. And here it is after I rinsed my brush and got some clean water. And I'm just spreading it on out. You can see it stains. Stains right there, but you can work it out in your painting. But there we go. So that's also really nice. And so now we're going to do only 25% neutral tint to 75% Viridian. And I've almost got it there with my drips there. So I'm just going to put a little bit more in there. Might have put a little bit too much of the neutral tint. Let me put a little bit more of the Viridian in there. Just guessing, just trying to get a good guess here. Okay, so probably needed a little more Viridian. Let's see how that turns out though. A little too much water. So that is pretty also. It's got a really pretty blue color, smoky mountain blue. That's what I would call that. And then here is just Viridian. And then let's see how it'll fade out with more water. Very pretty. I love that color. It's good for the sea life. Okay, so now we're going to do wet on wet, and I like to do it in two ways. I just draw me a little shape to kind of stay within the lines and then do it very loose so I can get a good idea. So I'm going to take my plain water and I'm just going to put it in my little shape as carefully as I can. And then I'm just going to drop in color. So I'm going to drop in first some Viridian. And then I'm going to drop in my neutral tint here and there. And then I could either tilt it or mix it, slightly with my brush. But just to see, how these colors react with water underneath it. You can blend them in. And then, you can see we're getting all the different little colors in there. There's a big bubble there. Little bubble. There we go. And then I'm going to just take water, just free and loose, and I'm going to drop in some Viridian, a little bit of neutral tint. Can bring them out, mix it up a little bit, just to kind of see how it would react and what colors kind of pop up, just randomly dropping it in there without mixing it to certain percentages. So this is just more freehand, I would say, freestyle. Okay, so there we have it. So there is our percentages. We have 100% neutral tint, and you could make it thicker and I think dry, use it more as a black. Then 75 to 25% Viridian, 50-50. Then 25% of the neutral tint and 75% Viridian, and then 100% Viridian. So I think, we could have done a little more Viridian in that right there. So let me just grab a piece of scrap here and try that percentage just a little differently. Just add a little bit less. And then this is what I'm doing is the 25% neutral tint, 75% Viridian. I think this is probably a little more accurate, although it's not that much different, is it? But it is a little. So there we go. So we can have 25% neutral tint and 75% Viridian. So that's really pretty. So what I was told by my dad, who did watercolor, he liked the neutral tint for putting in shadows. He would just add it to the color that he was using. So let's say you're doing a Viridian sky, ocean, and then you want to put some shadows in the waves. He would add just a little bit of the neutral tint to it and get a color of the shadow that also had the subject's color in it, in this case an ocean. So that's what he would do with his neutral tint. So he bought me a tube of neutral tint, and I was kind of afraid to use it at first. So here we go. We see what it does, and I'm going to do a series of 5 different colors, one every week, so we can see what happens with other colors and neutral tint and see how we can use that. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today. So until next Monday, I hope you have a really good week filled with lots of peace and lots of love. Bye-bye.